Good evening, everybody. Good to be with you all here tonight for our 5th annual Fine Arts Night. So it's hard to believe for me that we're on 5 years of doing this thing, and every single year, Fine Arts weekend has snowed. Well, the one year it didn't snow was last year, and it was canceled because of COVID. It was the first church activity that was a casualty of COVID. So, for all of you parents who are sitting there wondering what is happening, my plan is we've got teenagers for a reason, right? So we're gonna go through 5 feet of snow, just send them with their snow boots and snow gloves, and we will be okay, because they can push vehicles and shovel and do all that stuff, right? That's why God gave us teenagers. No, we are trying to be responsible. It looks like most of our weather services are asking us to wait until Wednesday or Thursday before they're able to release kind of final determinations of what the weather is going to look like. So we're going to make our decision in accordance with the best practices and procedures and what is safest for the group according to that. So thank you, families, for joining us here for this evening. We've got over a dozen performances for you tonight. I just want to remind you again, we have a handful of photography and art pieces that are out in the foyer on display. We're going to try, depending on how seamlessly we're able to get through a couple of these performances here, I'd like to give you a break in the middle of the evening just to stretch your legs and go out and take a look at those pieces of art. But for any of you who have lived in the Christian fine arts world for any amount of time, and I'm going to be dating myself here as a youth pastor, you guys are aware that fine arts lost an icon a month ago. Carmen passed away on February 16th. And he was 65 years old. He was planning a big tour for the end of this year, and he passed away. But for my generation, anyone who was a part of Teen Talent, the precursor to fine arts, you guys probably either participated or witnessed some vocal solos or human videos or something from Carmen. So, in honor of this great man, this icon of fine arts, when I was in fine arts, one year, my senior year, our youth pastor forced us to enter one additional category that we'd never done before. He was a mean, mean man and made us do something. And I was a little irritated because I'm like, I'm a senior. I don't want to do something. I feel like I've earned the right to not have to do something I don't want to do for this. So what I decided to do was come up with this human video solo to a Carmen song. Take your pick, right? For those of you who aren't familiar with human video solo, let me highlight this for you real quick, and then just prepare yourself to pretty much be amazed. But a human video solo is basically a drama, but instead of me doing the talking, I do it in line with a song. So Carmen is going to do the talking, I'm going to do the acting, and together, he and I are going to tell you about the story of Lazarus.
to say the room got real quiet when Lazarus said, "But I knew him in a way that y'all never did." See, man, I walked with him and talked with him. I saw how his teachings awed the crowds. Those famous tears of compassion, I could actually see. Man, he used to come over my house after church, and my sisters would make him dinner. Every month, I even supported his ministry. See, man, I watched him confront the Pharisees. I was there when he fed the 5,000. I heard the people gasp when he healed the lame. You see, man, I remember the littlest things, the things most folks would forget, like the simple, loving way he just called my name. Up at the grave, stone rolled away. With a loud voice, Jesus started to say, "Lazarus." You see, fellas, it just seemed like yesterday. I could hear that man saying my name. As a matter of fact, it seemed like today. I don't. Lazarus. Excuse me, brothers. I think I hear him calling now. What? Lazarus. Jesus. Lazarus. Jesus. Lazarus. Jesus. Lazarus. Hey, Jesus. Lazarus. Come forth. Come forth. I command you. Come forth. Lazarus. Hey, Lazarus. Oh, Lazarus. Come forth. Like Jesus was saying, sickness be healed. Mountain be moved when he said, Lazarus, come forth. Mary, don't weep. Martha, don't moan. Here come your boy, coming forth. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live.
Like I mentioned on Sunday, they say your group takes on the personality of its leader. Well, our group's full of singers. That's not me. We tried doing human video, but they just aren't dramatically as talented as their youth leader. So, I don't know. Maybe later. The best part of that story is, again, like I said, I was forced to do that, and it bombed. I didn't score very high, but I inspired somebody. There was a middle schooler watching in the audience that day, and that kid decided every year after that he was going to do that performance until he finally won Award of Merit one year. And I'm pretty sure the judges were like, let's give him the Award of Merit so we can see something different next year. Yeah, that is human video. Now we're going to move on to something a little more identifiable, recognizable, vocal solo. So Talia, if you can get ready to come on up here. Vocal solo. Vocal solo is straightforward, is exactly what it sounds like here. We've got 6 vocal solo performances for you this evening. God has blessed this group with some fantastic singers. And so if you'll join me in welcoming Talia.
Hi, I'm Talia, if you weren't listening. And I'm from Living Hope Church, and I'm going to be singing Reckless Love by Corey Asbury. Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so kind to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me me down fights till I'm found leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so kind to me. For the breath you held for me. You have been so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. Snow shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. Snow wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Snow shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. Yeah. Snow wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Snow shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. Yeah. Snow wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah.
Great job to Leah. And there is more where that came from. You guys are in for a real treat tonight. Good job to Leah. Next up, we have a category of short sermon. And short sermon is exactly what that sounds like. It is a short sermon. You're limited to 5 minutes. And it's a fantastic category. I've got to brag on our group here for a minute as they're getting, you can go ahead and get set up here behind me. Connor, you're going to be up. Where's Connor? Yep. So a couple years ago, our group they divide you into senior high school and junior high school categories for some of these things, like vocal solo and then short sermon and that kind of stuff. And our group swept the short sermon junior category. So for our junior hires, we took first, second, and third at Fine Arts. So we got a group full of really good preachers, and so let's go ahead and welcome Connor Steiger.
Living Hope Church, and the title of my sermon is Attitude. What is attitude? According to the world, attitude is something that is easily influenced by others and relies on others' doings to make it good. But this is very, very, very far from the truth. But what does the Bible say about attitude? Well, interestingly enough, the Bible talks about a man named Paul. Paul was never a follower of Christ. Eventually, Paul was called by God to spread the gospel. Paul dedicated his life to spreading the word of God and surrounding himself with Jesus. Paul was eventually thrown in jail. One night, God sent an earthquake to open the cell doors. Paul was given the opportunity to escape. Most of us in this moment, given the opportunity, would have immediately fled. But instead, Paul stayed to tell the prisoner guard about God. When Paul was sent to another prison far, far away on a different ship, the ship crashed. Paul immediately swam to a nearby island. Paul saw people on the island and without hesitating went and told them about God too. But no matter what happened to Paul, he maintained a Christ-like attitude. Why is this important though? God is able to use us when we have a Christ-like attitude. But how? Philippians chapter 2 verse 3 says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather in humility value others above yourself." This passage tells us that we need to put others above ourselves, but this is often very difficult to do. In fact, in the Bible we can find the best example of putting others above ourselves. Jesus Christ was sent among men to die for our sins. This is not only putting others above himself, but he made the ultimate sacrifice. Jesus was beaten, whipped, tortured, and nailed to a cross. Jesus did this all without thinking about himself. In fact, as they were crucifying, he even said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing." Even when God was being publicly humiliated and he was in excruciating pain, he was still thinking of others, even the one that nailed him to the cross. This is a perfect example of a Christ-like attitude. Having a Christ-like attitude is often key. As we can see, God used Jesus and God used Paul. God used Jesus and God used Paul to their fullest extent because they had a Christ-like attitude. Having a Christ-like attitude means keeping our focus on God and doing everything for the glory of God. Colossians chapter 3, verse 23 says, "Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for man, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Jesus Christ." Whatever we do, we need to do for the glory of God and not for the glory of the world. This can only be done with a Christ-like attitude. Having a Christ-like attitude is not just about how we act, but how we think. Philippians chapter 3, verse 8 says, "Finally, brothers, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things." We need to set our minds on things above and not worldly things. Romans chapter 12, verse 2 says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good, acceptable, and perfect." I challenge us all to move forward with a Christ-like attitude and to set our minds on things that glorify God, but most importantly, to focus on God, because without him, none of it is possible. Thank you.
See, the danger of giving you guys too many good short sermons is it might lower your tolerance for like 40-minute sermons on Sunday morning. I don't know. But yeah, good job, Connor. Short sermon, man, you'll be blessed. Tonight, you are going to hear 3 sermons and 6 vocal solos and a Christian band. So pretty much, if you didn't know you were having church tonight, you're having church. You're also going to see that thing at some point here tonight, for those of you wondering. no, that is not how Pastor Phil is going to start arriving on the platform on Sunday mornings. Although, let it be known, not because his staff did not ask. Okay? Next up, we've got another vocal solo here, so if you would join me in welcoming JoJo.
Oh, do I need to test it? Oh, sorry. Hi, I'm JoJo, and I'm from Living Hope Church, and I'll be singing You Already Know by J.J. Heller. Everything around me seems uncertain. My weary heart can't take much more surprise. I wish there was a point on the horizon, something I could see with my own eyes. I need to tell you that I'm scared. I feel completely unprepared. Nothing's what it was 2 weeks ago. But you already know. You already know everything I'm scared of, everything I hope. You hold my tomorrow and all tomorrow holds. You already know. I can't seem to find the easy answers. Someday I hope the suffering makes sense. I just need to know that you are with me, even if you keep me in suspense. We talk so much these days because I have so much to say. You stay and listen to me closely, even though you already know. You already know everything I'm scared of, everything I hope. You hold my tomorrow and all tomorrow holds. You already know whatever I'm feeling, whatever is coming, whenever the ending, you're already there. You go before me, you go behind me. Wherever I'm going, you're already there. You already know. You already know everything I'm scared of, everything I hope. You hold my tomorrow and all tomorrow holds. You already know. You already know. Thank you.
Good job, Josephina. I told you they were good. We're going to have another short sermon now. So again, what I try and do, I try not to run categories back to back on you guys, so that there's a little bit you can separate in your mind, like the short sermons and the songs and everything like that. Our group just loves doing short sermons, and they love worshiping God. Go figure. That's what Living Hope brings to the table. No Carmen human videos from this group here. So let's go ahead and welcome Alex Huerta.
hopefully some of you guys were maybe wanting a vocal solo, but I'm not doing that tonight, just FYI. Okay. Anyways, hi, my name's Alex Huerta, and I'm doing a short sermon called Under Construction. Billy Graham once said, "Every human being is under construction from conception to death." All our life, we are going through construction, whether it's in our physical lives, our mental lives, spiritual lives, wherever we are growing all the time. But what I find interesting is how most of the time we see the negatives in our growth. We see our weaknesses and our imperfections, and we try to hide them from others. But perfection is impossible. I totally skipped the spot, my bad. We try to just show our strengths, and society doesn't help by telling us we need to be the strongest, best looking, most athletic. Basically, society is trying to tell us to be perfect. But perfection is impossible, except for Jesus, and yet we are tricked both by society's voice and people around us that tell us we aren't good enough and show us that we aren't good enough until we do whatever it tells us to do, so basically perfection. And yet if we are always under construction in our lives, then we can never reach this level of perfections. We will always have something we can get better at, we'll learn, we'll struggle at, and yet God calls us into a kingdom where we are good enough. No matter how we look or if we don't do cool things, He simply accepts us, even though we are still growing, and He knows we will make mistakes. He loves us. He wants a relationship with us, and He also wants to help us grow and construct our lives for Him. I guess one example I saw is, you guys have probably heard about Stephen Curry. But anyways, when he was entering the beginning of his career, going into college, most colleges looked at him and said, he's way too short to ever do anything. And yet he still played at a pretty small school, and he started making an impact, and now today he's one of the best shooters in the NBA. So what would have happened if he listened to those voices around him that said he could never do anything, that he wasn't perfect, and he wasn't the ideal of what basketball was looking for? So who do we listen to then? Do we listen to society's opinion created by people who don't even know us and tell us what to do? Or do we look at the creator of the universe and people around us who love us and say we are enough and know us better than anyone in the world? I know I biased that question, but it still seems crazy that people look to society and not to God. So God calls us into this place where we are good enough, but what will we do with this calling and information about us being enough for Him? How can we construct our lives to better further our relationship with Him and find a relationship with just the Creator, the one that loves us? I like to imagine a city. When driving through a city, you guys know Colorado Springs, there's construction everywhere. You turn a corner, construction, another corner, more construction. That's like our lives. But the leaders of the cities get to choose where their time, money, resources go to improve their cities. And we are the same. Our lives are always under construction in different areas, and we get to choose where we put our time, from our physical to mental, spiritual. What is our focus in our life? What part of our lives do we need to spend the most time on constructing and is the most important? I think all three areas are important to keep growing in. Our physical, it's okay to be fit and in shape. I'm not saying you can't do that. It's just if our focus gets to that purely, then that is where it turns bad. 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20, there's a part that says, so glorify God in your body. So He does value when we work out and stuff like that, as long as we keep it up. But mentally, what are we feeding our minds? What are we filling that with? Are we filling it with things of God or the things of the earth? Colossians 3:1 through 2 says, since then, you have been raised with Christ. Set your minds on things above where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. And I think this is interesting on seeing how we need to look up and not on this area. And if we fill our minds with God and our relationships with Him, then we will definitely grow our spiritual lives. And so the last part is, are our spiritual lives even under construction right now? I think most of the time, at least for me, I get busy doing other things, doing my mental and my physical, but I'm lacking in my my spiritual growth. And I think that's the most important of them because we need God in our relationship. So God invites us to construct our lives for Him, to build our lives to glorify for Him. So what do you guys need to focus on in constructing your lives in order to live for Him? Thank you.
Great word, Alex. Fix your attitudes and construction. The teenagers hopefully are preaching to someone other than just their youth pastor. Hopefully they have in mind there. Up next, we have a unique category for you guys. This is going to be in the category of aerial silks. And yes, if you have not seen anything like this before, you are in for a real treat. And yeah, Pastor Brooks and I were going to play on it today, but Lexi had tied the knot just a little too high for Pastor Brooks to, no, just kidding. I just was told to stall for a second while she climbed 15 feet up into the air. So, all right, if you would, turn your attention to the massive rig on my left, your right, and please welcome Lexi Huerta.
Myself evolving, appalling, so much I'm not divulging. Been stalling, I think I hear applauding. They're calling, mixtapes aren't my thing, but it's been awfully exhausting. Hanging on to songs as long as daunting, which caused me to have to make a call I thought was ballsy, resulting in what you see today. Proceed indulging, as always, the one-trick pony's here, so quit your sulking. Born efficient, got ambition, sort of vicious, yep, that's me. Not artistic, unrealistic, chauvinistic, not those things. Go the distance, so prolific, postal cryptic, move swiftly. Unsubmissive, the king of mischief, the golden ticket, rare sight to see. I stay committed, embrace the rigid, I'm playful with it, yeah, basically. Too great to mimic, you hate your bitter, no favoritism, that's fine with me. Create the riddles, portrayed uncivil, unsafe a little, oh yes indeed. It's plain and simple, I'm far from brittle, unbreakable, you following? I'm Bruce Willis in a train wreck, I'm like trading in your car for a new jack. I'm like having a boss getting upset, cause you asked him for less on your paycheck. I'm like doing headstands with a broke neck. I'm like watching your kid take his first steps. I'm like saying Bill Gates couldn't pay rent cause it's too broke. Where am I going with this? Unbelievable. Yes, yes, inconceivable. See myself as fairly reasonable, but at times I can be stubborn, so if I have to, I will rock the boat. I don't tend to take the easy road, that's just not the way I like to roll. What you think's probably unfeasible, I've done already a hundredfold. A hundredfold is probable that I might press the envelope. Ideas so astronomical, sometimes I find them comical. Yeah, incomparable, replay value phenomenal. Beat selection remarkable, slowing me down impossible. I don't rock no rollies, I don't hang around no phonies. I don't really got no trophies, I don't know why God chose me. Got something in the cup, ain't codeine. Changed my style, they told me. Now they come around like homie. Man, y'all better back up slowly. Back up slowly? Who are you kidding? How could you doubt me? I've always delivered. Ripping the teeth out of the back of my mouth. The closer you get to my wisdom. See, my initial thought was the way, but what can I say? I had to come visit. Check on you guys. You doing alright? You're yearly socked. Yeah, that's what I figured. They cover their heads up whenever I drop. Shake the whole industry, put them in shock. Come out the clouds like a meteor rock, then land on the earth like ready or not. Ain't no one like me to cream me to crop. Don't even front, but they give me some props. I'll pick up your body and throw it a block. Okay, I admit it, that's over the top. Not here in the headlight looks. Every time I step my foot on the ground, I get mistook for a lame with no weight to his name. Ground just shook, let's not beat around the bush. Even my B-sides throw him off like how's he do it. Some say I'm a great influence, I don't know about that, but I did do the best I could. Hollywood, Hollywood, hope Nate doesn't go Hollywood. You think that you don't know me good, you think that you don't know me good. Hollywood, Hollywood, hope Nate doesn't go Hollywood. You think that you don't know me good, you think that you don't know me. I always advance, say how I fail, you know I stand. Raising the bar, I gotta expand. To stars, they fall in my hand. Stick to my guns, I don't even flinch. Can push all you want, ain't moving an inch. I rarely miss, you know I'm relentless. Ain't got a choice, no way to prevent it. Just who I am, and I don't regret it. See what I want, then I go get it. Follow my gut, I'm happy I did it. Beat all the odds, I ain't got no limits. Can it be stopped? You paying attention? I ain't gotta say it. They know where my head is, they know where my head is.
So my daughter Emily looked at me at one point and just said, "Dad, I can't dance like that." A sentiment I think we all share, Emily. Yeah, phenomenal job, Lexi. So, Lexi approached me and asked if she could do aerial silks. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a category in fine arts. So I went to our network office and I asked them, hey, can we do this? And they basically, they reached out to the national office, and the national office was like, no. Might be a liability thing, space thing, I don't really know. But our network office came back to me and said, hey, listen, we can't give her a score because, we can't accidentally advance her to nationals, and then they go and we get in trouble. But we want to see this. So, yeah, let her come and let her bring this thing. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. It's not a category, but kudos to Sean Rainey, our church ministries director, for being flexible enough and allowing her to just do that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and a lot of kids are going to be inspired being able to see the way that you can use your talents and skills and abilities in so many different ways. This time we've got another vocal solo coming on up, so let's go ahead and welcome Danny Steiger.
Hi, I'm Danny Steiger. I'm from Living Hope Church, and I'll be singing Reckless Love by Corey Osbury. Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I finally leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I finally leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it,
I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
Fantastic. All right, next up is a category you haven't seen yet here this evening. So this is a woodwind solo. And I probably should have asked, what woodwind are you playing? Clarinet. I got an instrument wrong one time a couple years ago in fine arts, and you guys all made sure that I knew that I had gotten it wrong. So clarinet, straight from her mouth here. If you would join me in welcoming Sammy Dawson for her woodwind solo. We're going to give her a second to catch her breath again. How many of you recognize the song? I heard some of you humming along to it, yeah. What I am so impressed with so often with these kids is, I mean, we're talking teenagers here, and we're asking them to perform. I mean, she's under the lights right here. I can barely see all of you guys with these bright lights, and it is not an easy thing. So I appreciate all of your guys. You have been so supportive to our kids throughout the years. And isn't it amazing, really, that anybody's able to stand up here and do any of these kinds of things? I'm so impressed by our group and by the talents and the skills and the abilities God has given them. Fine Arts' mission is to discover, develop, and deploy kids' talents and abilities in service of the kingdom. And so they try and find every way through dance, through singing, through playing instruments, through speaking and drama, for us to just give glory to our God, to have a Christian message that we're able to articulate and share with others. So I appreciate all of your guys' support. He's going to give it another shot here. So if you will, again, welcome Sammy Dawson. Good job. We've got another vocal solo performance for you this evening. And so at this point, I will welcome, and if you'll join me in welcoming Macy Harmon.
Hi, I am Macy Harmon, and I'm from Living Hope Church, and I will be singing Say Something by Ian, Axel, and Chad King. Say something, I'm giving up on you. I'll be the one if you want me to. Anywhere I would have followed you. Say something, I'm giving up on you. And I am feeling so small. It was over my head. I know nothing at all. And I will stumble and fall. I'm still learning to love, just starting to crawl. Say something, I'm giving up on you. I'm sorry that I couldn't get to you. Anywhere I would have followed you. Say something, I'm giving up on you. Say something, I'm giving up on you. I'll be the one if you want me to. Say something, I'm giving up on you.
Good job, Macy. All right, we are coming down the home stretch here, and this is a good time as our vocal solos have ended for the evening to just honor a couple people who've put in a ton of work with our teenagers here. Obviously, I know I've joked multiple times about how I have no singing acumen, and so these kids didn't get this skill or ability from me. No, but we have a team of really talented adult leaders who have volunteered so much time to help make this possible. So I want to just briefly recognize here John Steiger. He's back in our sound booth right now. He's been running the audio and everything for these kids. John has done incredible work with our youth band and mostly works with the musicians in the youth band. And then for our vocalists, we have Deborah Cover and Zach Hoffman. And Zach's up here, and Deborah is hiding somewhere. Where is she? Over here. Deborah's the one that's been keeping everybody on schedule here tonight. But those two have been working with the vocalists and helping to prepare and equip them. And then again, I know she's not here this evening, and she's probably really upset that I even mentioned her name. But the legacy that Loretta Steiger left with our youth band, she stepped back from the active participation role in helping fine arts this year and handed it off to a great team who was prepared. But many of these kids that you've seen singing here tonight, or you'll see the band perform in just a minute, owe an awful lot to Loretta Steiger. So I appreciate so much everything she did for us as well. At this time, we've got another short sermon. And so if you will join me in welcoming Elise Bennett.
My name's Elise Bennett, and my sermon is called Small But Significant. Carl Sagan was an astrophysicist who wrote the book A Pale Blue Dot, and he wrote this book after he saw the picture that is behind me, and Voyager 1 took this picture in 1990, 4 billion miles away from Earth. And in his book, Carl Sagan says, "Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you've ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives, the aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother, father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam." Carl Sagan's main point is that human life is insignificant and purposeless because Earth is absolutely tiny in comparison to the world, or comparison to the universe. I want you to keep this image of how small and insignificant you feel in your mind as I tell you a story. 5 years after my parents had me, they decided they wanted to have another child. And so they unfortunately experienced 4 miscarriages, and this was very hard on them because after one child, you really experience what you're losing when you have a miscarriage. So for quite a while, they carried this grief around, and my dad told me that one night he was driving home, and he pulled into the driveway just crying and weeping, and he said, "Why, God? Why would you allow this to happen? Do you feel my pain? Where are you?" He said that God told him, "Your joy will be made complete with the second." Of course, he was comforted, but he was also curious. How and when? Sooner or later, they started looking into Hope's Promise, which is an adoption program. And my parents just assumed that this was okay, and they started going into it and didn't really ask God about it. And so after the first meeting, I got really sick, and I had to go to the hospital. And God used this to tell my parents that this wasn't his will. So a few months rolled by, and my parents were going to Mountain Springs Church at the time, and they had a time called Impact 09, and it was a time of fasting and prayer. And my mom, it was during this time of prayer that she realized that she was holding on to this desire for a child too tightly. So God used this time for healing to remind them of his promise and that he was in control. My parents learned to want God's will more than they wanted a baby. And after they got their priorities straight, January rolled around and it had been in the 50s temperature-wise, and my dad said, "Okay, God, if you want us to look into adoption again, will you make it 70 degrees?" And so, sure enough, the next week it rolled around. It was 70 degrees on the dot. It was a record for Colorado Springs. God was in control that whole time, and now I have a wonderful little sister named Karina. So the Bible gives us a good example of significance in the life of Jeremiah. Jeremiah was called to be a prophet at a very young age, and during his time as a prophet, Jerusalem was morally destroyed inside, and it was getting destroyed militarily outside. And God called him, saying, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet of the nations." Jeremiah's response was, "I'm too young, and I'm afraid." But the Lord said in Jeremiah 1:9-10, "I've put words in your mouth. See, today I appoint you over the nations and kingdoms, to uproot and tear down, to destroy and overthrow, to build and to plant." I just want to tell you today that God has a predestined plan for you, just like he did for Jeremiah and my parents. He knew you before you were formed. He has a plan and a purpose for you, and you are not insignificant. Thank you.
Great word. Tim and Sarah, if you're open for another adoption, this weekend might not be a bad time for you to ask for 70-degree weather again. So just throw that out there. Let's just let the Lord speak to you on that one. Sorry, that was probably inappropriate, but we had a couple performances that are going to be happening on Saturday that for one reason or another weren't able to go off tonight. I just want to recognize those. We have a vocal solo. Sammy Dawson's got a vocal solo. And then Deegan Flores has a guitar solo that he's going to be doing on Saturday as well. And those weren't able to go here tonight. But we've got our final category for you guys to see, and I'm going to go ahead and invite the band to come up, and you guys can start getting ready as I set this up here. But again, I just want to remind you, in the foyer, we have a whole bunch of artwork. So there are photographs and art pieces, two-dimensional, three-dimensional art. They all, or many of them, have a description of the art piece and the medium that was used. So they're on the tables out here in the foyer. If you get a chance, we're going to go ahead and end just a touch early here this evening. So go ahead and spend some time out there and take a look. And then I want to appreciate two other people here this evening as well. John's trying to flag somebody down. So on our slides tonight and often on Sunday mornings, and this is the person that you only recognize when they make a mistake, right? Like the sound man. You know, when the words are wrong or something goes wrong is usually the only time this person ever gets any recognition. But I wanted to just give a shout out and appreciation to Michaela Steiger back there on the screens. She does a really good job on Sunday mornings and then for youth group as well. And then Meg Pace, who's at our cameras right now. For those of you watching on the live stream, Meg is the one behind the scenes often on Sundays, her and Heather Lynn, behind the cameras on Sunday mornings. And they also control the lights as well. So Meg, I want to recognize you and thank you for all that you've been doing too. All right, with that, would you join me in welcoming the Thrive Youth Christian Band?
Hi, we're Thrive Youth Band. We'll be performing What a Friend by Matt Mayer.
Oh,
see grace on every horizon, and forever and ever his heart is mine. No more betrayal, for he is faithful. He fills me up and my cup runneth over. No more betrayal, for he is faithful. How he has proven it over and over. No more betrayal, for he is faithful. He fills me up and my cup runneth over. No more betrayal, for he is faithful. How he has proven it over and over, over and over. What a friend we have in Jesus. East to west, my sins are gone. I see grace on every horizon, and forever and ever his heart is mine. Friend we have in Jesus. East to west, my sins are gone. I see grace on every horizon, and forever and ever his heart is my home. Forever and ever his heart is my home.
Yeah, great job, youth band. I want to thank all of you so much for joining us here this night, coming and supporting the kids like this. I can't tell you how much it means to them. The schedule gets a little crazy on Saturday, and so we don't always even all as a group get to see every performance. I think this Saturday we've got like 4 performances that are going off all 2 minutes apart from each other in different parts of the building. So we don't even get to watch everything with each other on Saturday. So this time and this evening where we all get to watch and highlight and just celebrate each kid individually is really special for our group. I want to thank all of you for coming here tonight. Just a couple more quick notes. Finally, in my list of thank yous, I want to thank Pastor Phil and Heather Steiger. They are always so supportive of anything that we try and do with the youth group, of whatever we need financially. The church boards are really flexible with us and really generous with us. And we know that we've got the support of our pastors. And just as a youth pastor who talks to other youth pastors, there's a reason I'm thanking Pastor Phil for his support here. Not every youth pastor gets that kind of support, and it is worthy of celebrating and thanking him and appreciating him and all of you guys as well. Now that I've buttered you up, get out your checkbook. No, just kidding. We do have, so I mentioned the artwork out in the foyer there. On the welcome desk, we actually have a couple art pieces that some of the students created for this night to sell. So if you are interested in walking out of here with a piece of art, please do not just grab one of the pieces of art that are on the table back there. Those are being turned in. But on the welcome desk, Jessica Vines is standing back at the welcome desk. If you are interested, go ahead and take a look at that. Some of you guys have asked the question if you can sponsor a kid or if it's too late to be able to contribute. It is not too late. This year's been kind of a crazy year, and financially, things are all topsy-turvy. If you have an interest in sponsoring any of these kids or in just giving generally, we welcome that as well. There's an offering envelope in the chair back behind you. You could put cash or check in that and just designate Fine Arts, and we'll make sure that all that money gets credited to these kids' accounts for this weekend. Or if you give online on our website, just designate Fine Arts as well, and we'll make sure that gets to the kids. Thank you guys so much for everything here tonight. Be sure to take a look at that artwork, and have a blessed night. And I look forward to seeing you on Sunday, hopefully, with some results for how these kids performed. Have a great night.